Yo, how's it going to it back in the video, and today I'm going to talk about how the Detroit Pistons, in my opinion, just stole Bojan Bogdanovic from the Utah Jazz. Now, I do understand the context. Everyone in the league knew that they were trying to trade Bojan. Everybody knows the Jazz are trying to be really bad, stock up on draft picks, stock up on young talent. So really their leverage wasn't where it would have been in most normal scenarios. But in my opinion, they still could have got a lot better for him, especially with still how many teams were interested in him and how good of a player Bojan actually is. So I'm going to get into a few reasons why I just don't think the Jazz did good in this trade. I'm going to break down all the trade details, and then I'm going to also say why I think this is going to be such a good move for the Detroit Pistons going into the future. So if that does sound interesting to you and you do want to listen and watch it all the way through, please hit the like button and subscribe button. It means the absolute word to me. And without further ado, without rambling on too much, just get right into this video. Alright, so the first thing I really want to get into for this video is going to be what the trade package itself actually is. And what the trade package was the Detroit Pistons received Bojan Bogdanovic, while the Utah Jazz received Saben Lee and Kelly Olynyk. And if you were just even a casual NBA fan and you knew anything about Bojan Bogdanovic, you would know very quickly, just by hearing the names, that is a very, very lopsided trade. Now, I understand the Jazz, like I said earlier, are not trying to be a good team. They're trying to purposely be bad to get better lottery odds and all that type of stuff. And I fully understand that. But there's a point to where you can still be bad while at least getting equal or close to equal compensation for the players you're trading away. And I just don't think they were able to do that. And if you look at what the Pistons were able to accomplish with this, I'm sure you could have even got more from them, because Bojan is really almost a perfect fit for this Detroit Pistons team. As the Pistons are not only adding a great veteran presence to a very young roster that needs it, because they are going to be a little bit of a competitive roster this year and could be legitimate play-in contending type teams and maybe even be able to make it into the playoffs through the play-in tournament. And I think that's what Detroit is going to be going for going into this season. And someone like Bojan, if they do get to that point, is going to be huge when it comes to veteran leadership and really just overall play on the court. And another reason he just fits so good, because if you look at the front court of this team, it is littered with elite athletes that a floor spacer like Bojan is going to help so much. They have rookie Jalen Duren, who is literally, his whole game is based on him being a freak athlete who's extremely strong, and Jalen Duren is going to benefit a ton playing with him. Marvin Bagley, another great elite athlete who is going to benefit a ton from having a floor spacer like Bojan on the court. Marvin Bagley played very good for the Pistons last year when he got traded to him, and now that they're going to have one of the best three-point shooters in the entire NBA on their team, it's going to make Marvin Bagley's job even easier, and same with Jalen Duren going into his rookie season. And then also Isaiah Stewart being their backup center, or maybe even starting center, depends what they do with Jalen Duren. Isaiah Stewart is a back-to-the-basket traditional center on the offensive end. Now, he has kind of added a three-point game in recent years, and he's shown flashes in the summer league, but for the most part in the NBA, he is still a back-to-the-basket, just strong, rim-protecting, rebounding, scoring about 10 points a game center, and Isaiah Stewart is going to benefit a ton as well from having that Bojan on the court. And he is just going to help those big guys play so much at a higher level and just play so much more free due to how much he's going to be spacing the floor for them. And I think that this team is going to just benefit a ton from having them, and their front court is going to get even more dangerous than they already are going into this season. And it's not only the front court players that are going to benefit from Bojan being on the team, it's also the other star level players that are also going to benefit a ton, as Cade Cunningham is going to be a great fit alongside of him. Now, obviously, Cade Cunningham is the superstar of this team along with Jaden Ivey, presumably, but Cade Cunningham has a very good court vision and is going to be able to pass the ball very, very well. And when you have an elite three-point shooter who can spot up or come off a screen and knock down every three he takes pretty much, that is going to help his playmaking a ton, because now he's going to have someone he can confidently pass the ball to, and he's going to knock down the shot almost every single time if he is open. And that is a huge safety net and just a huge reassurance mentally for someone like Cade Cunningham. And then he also is going to spread the floor. Once again, Cade Cunningham is going to be able to work better. He's going to have less attention on him on the defensive end of the ball as well. And then with Jaden Ivey, same thing. Jaden Ivey is going to be able to get to the basket, which he thrives at. He thrives at making tough shots around the basket and just making his own shot. And now with adding someone like Bojan, Bojan is going to make that much harder to only focus in on Jaden Ivey or only focus on Cade Cunningham, because now you have to worry about the Jalen Duren on a pick and roll. You have to worry about Cade Cunningham passing out to an open three-point shooter in Bojan and things like that. And then you also have Saddiq Bey, who is another very, very good three-point shooter who can score from every point of the court. So you have three players that can make their own play whenever they want in Saddiq Bey, Jaden Ivey, and Cade Cunningham, and Bojan Bogdanovic is going to make them even better at what they do, despite them already doing it at such a high level. And I just think he is such a perfect fit for this team from pretty much every single aspect you can ask for. It adds a veteran leadership presence to a very, very young team that's going to need it if they're focusing on making a play-in tournament run this year or trying to make it to playoffs at all this year. It's going to make Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey's job a lot easier, having someone they can pass it to, having a safety net who they can just knock down big shots whenever they need him to, and when they pass him the ball, they're confident he's going to make the shot all the time. And then their young bigs, their jobs and lives are going to be made way more easier from having another elite shooter on this roster. So I just think overall, this team just got so much better by basically giving up absolutely nothing in terms of actual production in the regular season from last year. And another thing this trade does that is very important, it adds much needed depth to this team, because now their bench is looking very, very good, because now they're going to have a bench of third-year player Killian Hayes, who I still think has high potential. He's a very solid defender, and if he can just get a little bit more confident on the offensive end, Killian Hayes could be a great player for them off the bench. Then they also have Alec Burks, who they just got in free agency. Alec Burks should be able to be a nice veteran presence off their bench. Hamidou Diallo had a stretch last year where he looked great, and Hamidou Diallo has really been a very good role player for them for about a year now, and I'm sure he's going to continue doing that. Isaiah Livers, he's really going to be getting his first real long depth minutes, and I think for sure Isaiah Livers is going to be a big part of this team going forward. And Corey Joseph's going to be in the reserves. They're either going to have Jalen Duren or Isaiah Stewart off the bench, and it's just going to be able to do so many different things. And their bench now looks a lot better than it did before this trade, because it moved Killian Hayes or it moved someone like Marvin Bagley or anyone like that to the bench. And I think it's going to help them a ton in the long run from a depth perspective, from a leadership perspective, from an all-around game plan perspective every night. And I just think Bojan is a literal perfect fit for this Detroit Pistons team. And now that I'm done praising Detroit for how good of a move I think this was for them, now it's time to start criticizing the Utah Jazz, because I do not like this trade from them at all. Bojan had a ton of interest from multiple teams in the NBA, like a lot of them. And there is no way the best package out there was Saben Lee and Kelly Olynyk. The only thing you can even somewhat argue is that they got Saben Lee and he is a young guy and they just wanted to add another young guy to their already very young team with tons of young assets. That's the only argument you can make, because Kelly Olynyk is 31 years old. They're either going to flip him later on or cut him later on. Kelly Olynyk has no future plans with his team, and they didn't even get a second-round pick out of it, which I'm sure they could have found someone to at least give you a second-round pick. Bojan is damn near worth a first-round pick from a very good team. And if you tell me there wasn't one team willing to give up a second-round pick for someone like Bojan who is going to instantly make your team better, I just can't believe that. Like, Bojan legitimately can move the needle for very, very good teams, and there's just no way you couldn't. And in my opinion, a second-round pick is almost more valuable than what they got in this trade. Like, Saben Lee, although is very young and does have potential to develop, and he has shown flashes, I just don't think Saben Lee is ever going to be a huge impact player for the Jazz going forward, or really any team in the NBA. He might be a nice end-of-rotation role player, but when you're the end of a rotation role player on a team like the Utah Jazz going into next season, that's not exactly a good thing. So at most, you got a project player that could potentially develop into a rotational guy, and then a guy that you're going to cut probably either before the season starts or at the end of the season, or you're going to trade him away at some point in Kelly Olynyk. So really, all around, I think it was a very, very, very good move for the Detroit Pistons to get him, and I think that the Jazz kind of missed the boat on this trade. Yes, it made you a worse team, and you're going to have a better lottery pick because of it, but you really didn't set yourself up for the future, and being worse, especially now, does not mean you're going to get a top lottery pick. Yes, you'll be in the top 5 or the top 8 or whatever the math is, but now that I think like the bottom 3 teams all have the same odds, really being the worst team doesn't have a benefit to it. So you could have definitely probably gotten more and set yourself up for the future more, while still not just completely giving up one of your best trade assets left on your team. I think they could have got a lot more for it, and I just think they really missed the boat, and just all around, I don't think it was a good move for what the Jazz did. Now, for what the Pistons did, I really do like it. But unfortunately, guys, that's my first video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Detroit Pistons got a good deal on this? What do you think the Jazz should do? What do you think they should have done? Want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like the video, point, hit the like button, subscribe button. It would mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. God bless you. So you have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah.